Hi, welcome to our Ask Me Anything series. My name is Emma Steiner, and I'm entering my senior year at Kenyon College, and I'm currently interning this summer at Sports Innovation Lab. Today, we'll be joined by my fellow interns to discuss a topic very close to us here at Sports Innovation Lab. We will discuss how student athletes from across the NCAA are handling COVID, what the future holds, and what resources are available today. We are talking to those affected right now, our interns who play sports at the collegiate level across the country. They'll share their experiences on seasons cut short, future seasons getting canceled, and what their plans are moving forward. So before I go through introductions, let me tell you a little bit how you can get involved and stay involved with the lab in this series. Share our Slack community. If you like the conversation today, want to stay connected to our guests and other participants, join our Slack community. We are well over 1,100 and growing, great place to share ideas, learn new insights, and meet new people. And this is an Ask Me Anything, so we want your questions. Type your question in the chat box below and we will try and answer it. You can also find all our AMAs posted on our website. And now I'd like to introduce you to our hosts, Josh Walker and Molly Tissenbaum. Hosting our conversation today is co-founder and president of Sports Innovation Lab, Josh Walker, as well as Molly Tissenbaum, the product manager at Sports Innovation Lab. I will pass it over to Molly and my fellow interns and let them introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Emma. That was great. My name is Molly Tissenbaum. As Emma said, I am the product manager at Sports Innovation Lab, and I'm really excited that you guys joined us to chat with our interns and talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. I was a Division I athlete. I was a hockey player. I went to school at Harvard, played 4 years of hockey, 1 year of softball. And I'm really excited to have our interns here to talk about what they're going through right now. I thankfully did not have anything like this going on when I graduated. And I'm really excited to have them share their insights on what they're feeling, what resources they've got. They're a really smart group of people, and I'm really excited to have this conversation. So thank you all for joining us.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining this very special AMA. As you have probably known from tuning in the past, we get guests from all over the industry to talk to us about how the industry of sports and entertainment makes money. Obviously, a very large piece of the economic infrastructure of the sports and entertainment market is the ability to grow and develop young athletes. So youth sports, amateur sports, collegiate sports, all have very real dollar signs associated with them. There's media rights, there's apparel deals, there's a new law around name, image, and likeness that allows there to be more commercial activity at the collegiate level. All of this signals opportunity for the market to evolve. COVID has kind of put that all on the skids. And there's a very, very real human side to this story. And we were talking about this the other day in one of our company meetings, and it just became clear how blessed we are this summer to have some very, very bright young people working with us, not only on the projects that we handle every single day, but also thinking about how they can help their peers, their friends who are going through the same things they're going through right now to try to improve the situation. And it is my job today to most definitely shut up. And I'm going to start by doing that by introducing our interns and letting them tell their stories. I've asked Molly to really moderate this conversation because she's much closer to this college experience than I am. She came to us straight out of Harvard. This was her first job. She knows what it's like to navigate the corporate structure, but she also knows what it's like to work with the people in the sports and entertainment industry who are our clients. And we hope that through this conversation, we can help many of you understand where the opportunities are that lie ahead and help you find the light in a very dark time that doesn't need to be as dark as it appears. So with that, I'm going to ask Eliza to start us off, get us going, introduce yourself, tell everybody what wonderful school you go to, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, I am Eliza Bim Boris, and I'm a rising senior at Middlebury College, which is Josh's alma mater. And I am going to be a senior co-captain of the women's soccer team. So right now I'm kind of in a little bit of an identity crisis because our NESCAC fall season has been canceled. So I'm trying to figure out whether or not I defer a year and go back for my senior year when there's potentially going to be a season or not. So this is definitely important to me. Yeah.
Well, we're so psyched to have you this summer, and thank you for being so energetic about this topic and steering this topic and this AMA. Cam, you're next, buddy.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name's Cam Macri. This last spring, I was a co-captain of the men's lacrosse team at UNC Chapel Hill. We were 7-0, number 4 in the country when COVID came in and canceled everything. Luckily, I was given an opportunity to come back next spring and try it all over again. So in the meantime, I've been working here at Sports Innovation Lab, working with Molly on some client-facing research, and as well as looking at how sports leagues around the world are trying to come back.
It's been great having you. A lot of the work that you've done on the resurgence of Sports Tracker has been awesome. Mia, you're next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mia Steinberg. I am a rising senior. I go to Tufts. I'm on the softball team. Our season was also canceled in the spring. It was sad. It was rough to see a lot of seniors go, but I'm excited for this senior year, and I'm hopeful that the season will be up and running in the spring. But again, there's a lot of ifs in that statement. And yeah, I'm really excited. And I've also been working on the sports dashboard with Molly, doing data and research.
And you've also been a huge help with the Athletes Unlimited season launch, which hopefully goes off without a hitch in the next few weeks here in August. Christina.
Hi, everyone. I'm a rising junior, and I go to MIT. I'm a co-captain on the women's basketball team. I'm kind of in a waiting game similar to the other interns in that I play a winter sport, so the earliest that our season could get up and running is January 1st. So I'm kind of also during this time of uncertainty trying to make the decision of whether or not I take the entire gap year due to the fact that my season does span both semesters. But I'm really excited to participate and have this conversation with everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Christina. And Andre.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andre Proctor. I'm a rising senior at Middlebury College. I'm on the men's soccer team and have been working this summer with Sports Innovation Lab doing content marketing and working closely with Molly and one of her coworkers named Jack. It's been a great summer thus far, but looking at the fall, we have a canceled season, what they're calling a non-traditional season. And like my fellow peers here who are all athletes who've worked hard our entire lives, it's a little bit of an identity crisis, like Eliza said. So tough decisions coming up for all of us.
Well, I did promise to shut up, so I'm going to let Molly take it from here. But thank you guys again, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thanks, Josh. And as a reminder, you guys can send your questions for our student athletes in through the chat. But to get it sort of started off the top, I would love for you guys to talk about what the biggest challenge in adjusting was when, you know, your world stopped turning in March or April when everything stopped. I know for me and for us in the industry, it was a shock to the system because business as usual was not business as usual. So I would love to get your perspectives on how that changed and how you guys managed to adjust.
All right. Yeah, sure. I'll take it off with having the season canceled in the spring. It was March 10th, I believe, where we had a game on a Tuesday, and we couldn't shake hands after the game, which seemed kind of strange. We were like, okay, I guess maybe this is serious. I don't know. And then sure enough, a day later, the Ivy League canceled their season. We're like, oh, this is serious. And then the day later, the Patriot League, and then we pretty much knew it was over. So it was very, very weird, having gone almost 4 full years, waking up at 6:30 every morning to practice. And that was just gone with, you know, half a season plus ahead of us. So it was strange. It was difficult for sure. Thankfully, UNC, the athletic department, was able to provide some really great resources on the mental health front, which is important, and decreasing the stigma, I think, of mental health has been a big point of emphasis across the athletic department in the last few years. So I think that was huge. And I was able to talk to our athletic trainer, and she mentioned that the sports psychologist the dedicated sports psychologists at UNC have been packed every day since March, basically, with people not knowing what's next, dealing with, like Eliza and Andre said, the sort of identity crisis of being a student athlete for your entire life, and then having part of that kind of ripped under the rug. So that was great. But again, still so much uncertainty, not only on the mental health side, but professionally, career-wise. People wanted to take the gap semester, gap year, like we've mentioned, and other people will hit on. So it's been strange, really weird for everyone. There are some great resources, but I think more can be done to really help student athletes from the D1 to D3 level sort of connect and figure out how they can move forward.
Yeah, Christina, you wanna weigh in on what that looked like when things stopped turning?
Yeah, I would like to echo what Cam said in terms of, so I was fortunate enough to have finished my season the first week of March. It was definitely bittersweet, but kind of progressing through it, MIT came out with their decision to send everyone home, and within 5 days I found myself putting everything into cardboard boxes. So I didn't have necessarily the pressure or the consistency of going to practice every single day or having that cancellation happen. But MIT was really great in terms of the mental health aspects. They provided us each with like student support coaches that they called them. And so coaches were very willing, like coaches of varsity teams, club teams had overextended themselves and really provided that support when we needed that connectedness most. So I would say MIT did a great job. That conversation is continuing to happen in terms of progressing to the fall, even into the spring as the conversations continue. But I definitely think from a student's perspective, the fact that a lot of my teammates, a lot of my peers are all over the world and just trying to stay connected despite all the barriers and all odds against us, like has been really important.
And just to kind of go off that, my this spring when the softball season was canceled as well, it was super, kind of shock to the system, as Molly was saying before. And it's so different from the fall sport athletes who now have a different choice to make, kind of, with how they're going to spend their next year. So definitely the experience of it kind of just getting cut off and taken away from you was much different. And like Cam was saying, there's a lot of resources that Tufts was providing, definitely, but there was just a lot of uncertainty and nobody really knew how to manage this, and everyone's still kind of figuring it out. So yeah, I would say the biggest takeaway in that was just like, it was a total shock to the system, and there's no way of sugarcoating that.
To go off what you were saying, Mia, I think it was really interesting. The schools were so shocked to just have to cancel and move online, and I think athletics kind of took a back seat to all of that. And even coming into the fall, the schools are struggling to plan remote learning and mixed hybrid learning. So they haven't really, athletics seems like a luxury at this point that a lot of schools just can't afford. So I think that's been really hard because it's not just figuring out sports, it's figuring out every part of everyday life. Yeah.
And so where are you guys getting a lot of your information? What's the communication looking like? Is it coming from your coaches? Is it coming from the athletic directors? Are you guys talking to your teammates? Where are you getting that information? Eliza, you can take it. You were.
Yeah, so there's been a ton of like, not rumor mill stuff, but I think a lot of the relationships between schools and between players has been huge. So just hearing from other kids at other schools, like what they're doing and what they're hearing from their coaches has been super helpful. But we've at Middlebury, we've talked a bunch through our coaches, and like the athletic director has been super helpful in reaching out and keeping us informed. I think what's really hard is the athletic directors don't know and the coaches don't know. So it's been a lot of these like conversations where we ask a bunch of questions and our coaches just say, we're really sorry, but we have no idea what's happening. And so I think that's been a big lesson for all of us in being flexible and just kind of rolling with it. But it is really challenging, especially when it's not just like, it's college, it's your future, it's your career like prospects. So it's hard to know like how much you're supposed to just be flexible with and when you're supposed to take your kind of future into your own hands. But yeah, mostly from our coaches and athletic directors is where we're getting information.
is that experience consistent across the board for you guys? Cam, I would love for you to weigh in just on a different sport, a different conference.
Yeah, it was primarily our coaching staff, our athletic trainer that I mentioned, who has been really, really helpful. She's kind of our point of contact with the sports psychologist or any other resource that we need. And then just our teammates. I mean, our coaching staff set up Zoom calls consistently throughout the spring and early summer so that we're all seeing each other's faces and not, being too lonely. So that was good. This summer period is usually a dead period anyway, where we're kind of doing our own thing. We're talking in group messaging apps like GroupMe, and staying involved. But it's definitely been a close team wise with just our team athletic trainer, our coaching staff, our fellow teammates who are going through the same thing. And then from that point, like I said, they can, if we need more resources, they're there for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mia, Christina, either of you want to weigh in? Both of you?
I mean, I was kind of or MIT in general was in a unique situation in that we had a new athletic director come in, I believe, February or January. Wow. It was the official start date. So his 60 or 30, 60, 90-day plan kind of imploded before his eyes. And so the first time I met him was at a practice. He came to a couple of our playoff games, was really part of our run, and it was absolutely awesome. And then he's now between a screen, and I'm no longer able to converse with him in his office and hear about his experiences and he had made it a point to really be involved in the culture of campus. And so that rug kind of got ripped out from underneath him, but he has been whether it's a town hall or having an open forum or being very accessible, the entire athletic community and all of the coaches, him in particular, have been really great in terms of providing that support. And maybe they don't have all the answers, but they're definitely pushing for us to stay connected. And some of the things that were brought to my attention, some of my teammates are considering gap year and more heavily than I am. And so kind of the compliance rules behind that, and speaking directly with my coach saying like, hey, how can we bring in the incoming freshmen, for example, who have never stepped foot on campus, have never seen college life, and are now just like wandering through Illinois, Seattle, like by themselves. And I'm like, I'm in Boston. How much can I help? And so kind of bringing them into the community and bringing them into the culture has been a very, very much so a point of emphasis for myself, the other co-captains, and all of my teammates in general, just to try to figure it out, and make sure that even if people take gap years, like my coach was very quick to be like, oh, I'll jump off the Zoom call, like so that they can come on, so that there's no compliance issues. So I think Eliza's point of flexibility is very well noted, and that's something that I'm particularly focusing on as well as the situation continues to evolve.
So Christina, let me jump in here because this is an Ask Me Anything, and I want to encourage people to keep asking questions. And this question is directly related to what you just said. So Bridget asked, first of all, she thanks you guys for having this discussion, which I think a lot of people appreciate. But a few of you guys have mentioned gap years. And so I think it's really important to talk about yourselves, but also any of your friends and teammates that you may know that are considering this. Does anyone have a plan for how they're spending the gap year or how they would like to spend it if you choose to go that route?
So kind of I took a step back when I was thinking, and I have been discussing with some of my close friends, and also obviously my family, my coaches, even my mentor supervisors, Molly, we had this conversation too, just what I would do in the interim. And so I guess like when people have discussed it in the past, it's like, okay, what's your goal? Like, why do you want to take this? How is it going to enhance your academic experience? How is it going to enhance you as a human? How is it going to enhance you as a person that's going into industry or grad school or something of that nature? And so I think the things that I was targeting as I've been looking, like, has specifically been maybe an internship or co-op or something that will provide me with new skills, maybe allow me to make some monetary compensation, but also just have a better idea of what I want to do with my life. And so in total or in general, from a high level, I would say I'm most specifically looking at going into industry, and spending the time trying to refocus, take the step back, and really figuring out which direction I want to go in terms of my career.
And Matt asks, a number of you guys have mentioned the idea of an identity crisis. And again, we deal with this with pro athletes when they transition from pro sports into retirement and things like that all the time. It's a big deal. So to lose part of your identity and have what you guys have termed as an identity crisis is completely normal in this context. But what Matt asks is, Since your seasons were canceled or since they plan to be postponed or canceled, where in your personality, in your identity, have you guys invested perhaps more time than you would have in the past? I think that's a really interesting way of thinking about it. You lose this big piece of yourself, but what are you looking to replace it with, and how do you think about that? So, Andre, I'm going to put you on the spot because I haven't heard your voice enough. You want to give that one a go?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Josh. Well, I mean, I guess I'll first speak to the identity piece, because, and quickly to Bridget's question where she asks, how are people planning to spend a gap year? That's part of the complexity of this, is that if you're not going to go to school, well, we'd like to do an internship or maybe do community service work or do travel. But given the situation, we don't know if we can do those things. So that's part of what's playing into our decisions. But on the identity front, some people might say, hey, sports aren't that important. You should focus on your schooling, finish your education, graduate on time, and move on with your life. But it gets a little more tricky when you start thinking about like your habits, your motivations, your friend groups, the way you structure your week and your schedule. Since the age of 9, soccer has been the one of the few constants in my life, and I'm now 22. And so without that in my life now it's like, it's a very shocking thing. And while I'm fortunate for that to be like, a problem in my life now, because some people are dealing with much more drastic problems, it's definitely shocking. And so I've found other ways to, build my character, invest my energies in outside of soccer while I'm continuing to train. It's, gardening with my mom. I've gotten into gardening lately, and doing work with Sports Innovation Lab. I've been enhancing and growing and learning so much on the sports tech side. And that's something I want to continue even after this summer. So I guess, yeah, gardening and sports tech, those are two things I really had no interest in prior to this, and something I definitely want to continue going forward. So a lot of it is just about introspection, learning new things about yourself. And maybe that's an incomplete answer, but that's where I've landed so far.
I think that was a perfect answer. Anybody else want to touch on this? Because we have another question that came in.
Yeah, just really quick. A lot of this season interruption and just generally losing that self-identity piece made me think a lot of being injured and just being able to, the idea of being sidelined from a sport relating to something that you totally can't control. So I felt like I was injured this past fall, and I was able to take a lot of those self-talk and, communication with team, skills that you build during injuries and kind of apply that and talk to my teammates about it. And, I think the biggest piece on my end was just keeping transparency between all teammates and coaches. And, I'm lucky enough to be involved in a program that does just that. But yeah, that's just, I would say, the biggest thing with like being able to harness your energy in other places and just keep talking.
And this next question comes from Mitch. And I know some of your parents are on here too, so I'm trying to figure out if this is one of your parents who's saying, when you go back to school, and hopefully you all will, right? So that's part of this. No, but what the question's really about, what do you expect to hear from your coaches? And what should your coaches say? How should they address the players? How do they bring this team together? And what did they say about this situation? What would you expect? Eliza?
This is a really interesting question that I've been kind of struggling with, because our coaches are in this really weird position where their career is coaching us. So they really want people to come back and play. But at the same time, they also understand that it might not be the best decision for each individual. So our coach has been really adamant that it's our decision. He's not going to force you either way. But it's definitely been a hard thing it feels very isolating when your coach is really letting you make this decision, because it's a big decision and it's sometimes scary to be making that on your own. So I think, like, for me, it's been really important to feel that no matter what people on my team decide, our coach will be there at the end of the day and the following year if you come back. So that's really been something we've kind of talked a lot about. What does this mean for the future of our program if 10 seniors take the time off and come back for the fall of 2021. Like, what does that mean for the rising seniors in high school or the incoming freshmen? So yeah, I think coaches are in a really challenging position because it's not just about, for me, it's really easy to think about myself in this situation, but they have to think about the future a little bit broader.
Yeah, I would say just the uncertainty of everything is kind of overshadows anything that we can realistically expect from coaching staff or anyone else at the program. I was, again, talking to our athletic trainer the other day just to kind of get a feel for what to expect. And even she was like, we're trying to figure things out. We don't really know. She was saying, we don't really know what to do with you guys. We'll do groups of 10 in the weight room in practice, and then you all go to your houses and spread it to you. So there's just a lot of uncertainty. Our coaching staff has done a good job in the interim getting us together and just being very candid about the situation, and that it's very difficult, not just for us players, but also the coaches, especially with the dead period of recruiting. They're usually very busy during the summer trying to get the next set of recruits in. So I know for a fact that the coaches have struggled a lot in a lot of similar ways. So I think we're all kind of in it together in that sense. So I'm sure we will all go back in the same boat in the fall, just try to take it a day at a time and figure things out.
If I could also just jump in there, my younger brother is hoping to be recruited for rowing. He's a rising senior in high school, and he's right now seeing, programs across the country just kind of shutting down for lightweight rowing. And so he's kind of in also like a similar position of an identity crisis, as he's kind of erging in our basement twice a day. So he doesn't really know what his future will look like. And I think there's also a lot of uncertainty there. I think that's been pretty hard for him.
So building off of this question of an identity crisis, one of the other things that I know was true for me and for a lot of my teammates when our season came to an end and I was a senior was, what do I do to focus myself on the next challenge or the next thing in my life? And for me, that was finding Sports Innovation Lab. So I'm curious if you guys can weigh in on what resources you guys have available to you to connect you with, whether it's your alumni group or other employers who are looking for student athletes who are, whether it's taking a gap year or who are graduating. Are there things that are available to you guys specifically as student athletes that you guys have taken advantage of that you would like to see? So I guess we can start. Mia, do you want to kick it off there?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking back to earlier at the end of the year this year, our seniors didn't really have an end of the year, senior day or anything like that. And our coaches did this really amazing thing where they had all of us on for a Zoom call. And then like 10 minutes into it, they surprised us with like 75 alumni. And we were kind of like inducting all of our graduating seniors into like the alumni network. And we got to like Zoom with these legends of tough softball and actually get to, hear what they do now and communicate with them on the ground. And then afterwards, we're able to kind of get their contact information and like actually make that network a feasible thing. And I think that's something really special that we were able to do. And I recommend that to any coach or, athletic director to put onto the programs that they have at their schools, because it's really powerful. And I know that any tough softball alumni definitely wants to help out the rest. And I'm sure it's the same with all of the pride at a lot of other schools. So yeah, I think that was really helpful. And I suggest it to any coaches or directors that are listening.
Yeah, it's a great point. That's in the interest of full disclosure. That was how I found Angela through our alumni network. So that was the reason that I asked. We didn't have anything set up formally that was designed to connect players with opportunities with the alumni, but like what you're saying, I got lucky and happened to find Angela at an alumni event and tracked her down, and here we are all these many years later.
Something on that vein, Middlebury has started this part of their like Center for Careers and Internships. They've started this program called Mid Gigs, where alumni, and this is not sports related, but alumni post projects that they are looking for help on. So they can range from like 300-hour like internships or just like a 40-hour specific thing that they're looking for. And it's a really interesting way to gain like work experience in a bunch of different realms. So for me, thinking about taking time off this fall, it's been super paralyzing because it's kind of like jumping off a cliff into this unknown where I haven't really not had the next step figured out ever in my life before. So, but having all of I get emails every day and it's a new internship, a new thing, and some of them have really piqued my interest. And so I think that's a great way for alumni to get great like talent for cheap, but also for the students to get experience and build their networks moving forward.
Yeah, on the professional resource side, I know of a LinkedIn group that's pretty expansive. I know that I can reach out to my coach and say, hey, I'm interested in this career transition. Are there alumni in the network that might be able to help me out? And I feel pretty confident that there would be. But having said that, I think there's a really great opportunity for there to be a better, more expansive resource, especially right now for all the student athletes who don't know what's next, who are looking to get some great career experience, especially like we said, gap year or gap semesters. Like myself, will be taking the fall off and interning. So definitely there can be something better to get all of us, for example, who don't know where exactly to work next. We all want to work, and we're all very competitive and driven individuals. There's no doubt. So there can be some work done there. I think there's a great opportunity for someone to create a resource there.
And so what would that resource look like? If you pie in the sky, you've got all the money in the world to design this resource, what would you, your top 3 features, what would you want it to do?
Just something that people that are hiring can have a database of individuals that work. I don't know whether it's separate sports, separate divisions. I don't even think that's necessary. Just a separate timeline of where people are trying to work, what geographic areas, what timeline, place for employers to go and find this vast network of student athletes that are willing to work, like Eliza said, sort of at a cheap dollar for really great work. I think so. Yeah, that's what I have for now.
I think I would build on that in terms of like making it a two-way street. So students have the opportunity to say, I'm interested in X, Y, and Z. But in addition to that, having maybe categorical or sectors of the industry, whether it's sports tech or team related or whatever, even it could be something completely unrelated, like economics or finance or something of that nature, where students are seeking, they possess certain skill sets, maybe they're trying to obtain or acquire new entries, or they're trying to obtain new skills. And I think that having both where employers could reach out, or opportunities that would be like readily available for students, and also putting it on a timeline, as Cam said. So like maybe the entire length in which it would span maybe a full-time offer, or just the fall, or just the spring, depending on people's varying circumstances. But maybe categorically breaking it down so that there's a targeted focus of like, okay, I want to go into sports tech. Then the next step would be, when am I, like, what is my timeline? And also, what are the positions available, and having that opportunity where it's like a modified LinkedIn kind of, where you can connect with people and network, but it has a very targeted focus, and it's a very accessible thing for students and also employers, because ultimately they need the help as well. And
adding to that a little bit, I think it's been really, so all the interns at the Sports Innovation Lab found SIL in different ways. And I think not necessarily the easiest, not that it isn't the easiest thing to find, but a lot of these great opportunities aren't really marketed to young students that are like looking for them and eager. So I think trying, and especially in the sports industry, so I think trying to make, especially right now when everyone's kind of looking for opportunities, doing a better job of reaching out to the coaches or the commissioners of conferences or ADs that and saying like, I would love someone to come help out with this. I think that making a little bit more of and I know everyone's kind of, it's hard for people to make that make that effort, but I think it would make a huge difference. It's really scary to like look out into this uncertain world and have nothing on the horizon.
guess I could jump in and add one more thing here, because a lot of what we talk about in so far here is people looking for internships, looking for jobs, trying to network to get that that carrot on the end of the stick, for lack of a better term. But I also think it would be really helpful as a young student just to be able to converse and talk with people in these companies, because sometimes there's this expectation that if I send an email to someone at Sports Innovation Lab, for example, eventually I'm going to ask for something. Can I have an internship, or can I be put in contact with someone else? And sometimes that can be frightening as someone looking to get into the professional world. So even just a more free-flowing like message board, or a way to converse with people who are in these companies and without expecting anything in exchange necessarily, but just to learn, talk, get a feel for the industry would be really helpful. Because for me, for example, when I started in the summer at Sports Innovation Lab, I had no idea that sports tech was something I would be interested in. And thank God I am. But, you know, prior to being here, it would have been really cool to talk with someone, learn more about it, and be like, yeah, this is something for me that I want to pursue, or not.
It's a really interesting point, Andre. I also had no idea. I studied sociology in college, and I had no idea that sports tech was even a thing that I could do. And again, I got lucky tracking Angela down, that she was starting this company with Josh, and it just so happened that I realized once I already started my internship that sports and technology do go together, and that there's this massive opportunity for not just internships, but again, to network and grow, and ultimately, again, for me, get a job and do something that I'm passionate about. But that's a really good point. I also remember that hesitation to reach out to people, thinking that you have to have something to offer, or that you're always going to ask for something else. So I think all of your points are great, but I think that's a really interesting way of putting it, that it's just a networking ask, get some information sort of feature. One of the other questions that we've been kicking around internally that I would love you guys to talk about is where you think the biggest ripple effect will be for you guys personally, if you take a gap year, if you don't, and then on your teams as well. Is it on the recruiting side? Is it on the alumni network, employment opportunities? We know what revenue loss looks like for the NCAA, for pro sports. We cover that every day, but I would love for you guys to talk about where you think the biggest ripple is going to be for you guys personally.
And maybe when you guys answer that question, you can kind of answer it too, in the sense of what you sense all of your teammates and your friends are going to be doing too. Because what happens in these crises, right? And I look back over my career, there's, September 11th, there's a housing crisis and the recession, and there's now this really big moment where lots of things are in flux and changing. It accelerates innovation in different areas. So it's not just the bad stuff, but it's where all that, excess energy finds a new market and gives birth to something. So again, I've had the benefit of working with all you guys. I know how smart you are. Try to imagine where this could lead to new opportunities too. It's a big ask, so I'm going to start with Mia.
I think that, like Josh was saying, there's a lot of new opportunities that could come out of something like this. Similar to Andre, I didn't necessarily know anything about the sports tech world before working for Sports Innovation Lab, so that's definitely been like a huge part of, this post-quarantine life, so to say. A lot of people that I've been speaking to, I feel are going to tread more towards doing more schooling. Maybe going to graduate school, getting a degree in something else after undergrad, simply because the job market might be a little bit confusing and hard to break into. Like a lot of people weren't lucky enough to have internships this summer. A lot were canceled. So I think that, yeah, there'll probably be a trend towards doing some more education, having a more longer experience, since everybody's feeling like their experiences were cut short. But yeah.
I can add on.
I love that I don't need to call on you guys. Eliza.
Something, this is a little different, but we've been talking a lot about like opportunities for innovation in sports. And I think what's been really cool about, not really cool about the pandemic, but that's something that's happened is technology is no longer a luxury in sports. So all of these venues are trying to create ways so that they can safely bring fans back. And that answer is tech. But also we've been talking about how technology could be used to make our lives as kind of remote student athletes better. And so my team has been doing remote Zoom workouts all spring. So we've done like 3 a week, and we Zoom in and somebody leads it, and we've just been like doing bodyweight workouts from all over the country. But if there were some type of Zoom that was like specific to that, like we all have our Volt apps on our phones, and we're like via Zoom. So we're like using all these forms of tech, but and like someone has Spotify playing. And if there was a way to integrate all of those things into one technology, that would be really cool, because I do think like for me, I'm thinking of taking the fall off, and as like a rising co-captain, I want to be a part of my team this fall and the girls that are going to be on campus. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to work out with them remotely and like join team events remotely. So I think that those things aren't going to go away. So that's just an idea I've had, and I don't know if that answers the question.
Totally answers the question, and it's not just an idea. It's like you've already connected the dots between a bunch of different apps that need to come together, and Molly can help you design that for sure.
Great,
Let's do it. We'll spend the rest of the summer building that.
Yeah, I mean, I just very well said, Eliza. I think that's exactly it. Again, remotely over the summer, we usually just do, group me, occasionally kind of team workouts like that. But 100% agree that I think at every level, that sort of interconnectedness from wherever you are to be able to connect with your team, whether it's a workout or otherwise, just team building activities as well, just having fun together and staying connected as a group is really important. And then again, with the ripple effects, I think it's another question as well in the chat, that with the recruiting and the guys coming in, I mean, last spring, the freshman, sophomore, junior class as well, they're going to have to make similar decisions to us, where they will have another year of eligibility left, where they might graduate or they might want to do 5 years. So again, what we mentioned before of sort of a networking tool where they can reach out to previous classes or, again, get that potential work experience so they have a better idea of how to move forward with their career. If they want to do an MBA, a master's of something, and do that 5th year, I think just some guidance to help them. And then again, with the app of staying connected and being able to work out. And so there's multiple opportunities, I think, in those areas.
Yeah, I'll jump in here on the ripple effect side of things. I think you can break it up into a short term and a long term. And for me, the short term is like, there's something to be said for graduating with your class with the 8 or 9 fellow athletes who you came in with. And now with people deciding to take a semester or a year off, it kind of breaks that up. So on the short term front, personally, that's what I'm going to notice the most, is just not necessarily being with those 8 guys that I came in with. But I also know that I'm, have strong enough bonds with all of them that will not be a long-term ripple effect. But then on the long-term side of things, that's where I see there's a lot of, opportunity, because with everything being remote now, with everything being thrown up in the air, people are adjusting. And so people are now finding, remote internships that they may not have had access to before. Or like Eliza mentioned earlier, this new mid-gigs program that Middlebury started is a really cool opportunity for employers and people to crowdsource student work. So that's something that's really encouraging that's come out of this. And I think that's, something to focus on and stay positive about. And then finally, from an athletic perspective, the ripple effect for me in soccer, you always talk about match fitness or, keeping your touch on, and I'm sure there are similar phrases in other sports, losing that match fitness, the ability to be ready for a game is something that I think will be lost with the loss of games and just regular competition. And I read recently that Rezel virtual reality group is partnering with Harena, and they're and U.S. Soccer to bring a virtual reality training app to the forefront. And I know there's a cost factor to that, but something like if NCAA could make some kind of program like that available to its athletes would be really cool, because they have technological ways to make that training more game-like. And that would definitely be something I would take advantage of if it were available.
All right, Christina, we're coming to the top of the hour here, so you're going to get to drop the mic. Blow everybody's mind.
This is a lot of pressure, Josh.
Yep, you got MIT engineers all around you.
I'm thinking.
Go.
Okay, so I have a couple things. In terms of Mia's point about people going more towards the schooling side of things. So unfortunately, my major, I'm a double major at MIT, so I'm studying business analytics and then also computer science. And so my second major, unfortunately, doesn't have a fifth-year program. So I'm also kind of in like this weird position in which, yes, the NCAA has granted this waiver for Division III, in which now your time or your clock for your 5 years that you can get in your 4 years of athleticism or 4 years of the competition within the NCAA has now extended to potentially 6 due to this waiver. And so one of my friends on the football team like had redshirted as a sophomore, was planning on taking his 5th year this fall. And now due to the situation and all of our sports being canceled for the fall season, he's considering now doing that as a 6th year. So he's benefiting directly from this waiver. Unfortunately, I'm not. So that's kind of also been like an interesting perspective and an interesting take, because I'm kind of unsure like whether or not I alter potentially what I'm studying so that it's more specific in terms of like maybe taking that 5th year and not. And so that's one thing. Another thing I joke about with my teammates is that everyone's going to come out of quarantine and be able to dribble, because when I was walking to so I'm currently residing in Boston. There was a basketball court I found. I was all excited. I walked to it. It has no rim. And I'm like, all right, I am kind of out of luck. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And so I don't know how, like Andre like touches upon like getting match fitness. I just want to be able to shoot like in the near future. And I don't know if that's possible. It's promising because Boston's opening all of their gyms. So that'll be great from a cardio perspective. But it may be a little tough when I go to shoot a basketball. And so that's also been, I think, having the technology that has advanced in terms of being able to keep whatever fitness and whatever possible throughout this interim period. And also to think about not playing the sport that I've played since I was 4 years old until maybe next year is very interesting. And so I'm kind of toying with like what I'm now expanding my game, and I'm thinking about other facets that I maybe wouldn't have been able to get in terms of December when competition had resumed. And so to touch on Eliza, Cam, Mia, Emma, Andre, all their points, I think that having one succinct location and one succinct spot, whether Mia could be doing something with a softball in which she's running around her little diamond and not spitting in her glove, Josh.
They do spit in their gloves.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do. I think
don't.
Mia will back me up on this. Or Andre is running laps or running like whatever up and down into the 18 in the box. I think like having that connectiveness with like just athletes in general, I've been very grateful to have like my perspective on things has really opened up with all of my peers and working at the Sports Innovation Lab. So regardless of what really happens, I think for the fall, I think we're all in kind of rowing this boat together, and that's pretty cool. And I think that some of those connections are like that have formulated due to the circumstances, it really has brought people closer, even though like the physical boundaries have been put in place. Like I would not have been like be sitting here today if it wasn't for all of the circumstances that have presented itself. So I'm super grateful to be under Molly, under Josh, under Angela, and everyone at the Sports Innovation Lab team, and working with all of you. And I think it should be good.
Wow. When I said drop the mic, you took me very seriously.
I'm just kidding.
I'm going to put that on a loop. My
Just
ringtone
listen to
Not
it
as
on
it
the
could have been a little bit more artful, but I think you guys get the message.
No, it couldn't have been any more artful or articulate. Thank you guys so much for doing this, Molly, Emma. Thank you guys for making this happen as well.
Sure.
I joked earlier that maybe your parents were listening. I hope they were. If I were your parents, I'd be so freaking proud of you guys, the way you're handling this adversity, but also the way you're being thoughtful about your own futures. But I'm not your parents. I'm actually your boss this summer. And for that, I'm enormously grateful, because the value you guys have all brought to our company is equally impressive. So keep your heads up. I feel like I've gotten to know you, even though I've never met any of you in person. We will change that, I guarantee, because there is light at the end of this tunnel. You guys are rock stars. Keep your heads up, and we will be back again next week with another AMA. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.